I'm Mary Michaels with Live Well Sioux Falls, and welcome to the Live Well Health Feed, the health show that's designed to feed your mind with helpful health information. I have a great guest today. It's my coworker, Morgan Vanderzee.
Hello.
So Morgan and I are the Live Well Sioux Falls team in the Sioux Falls Health Department, and Morgan is also a registered dietitian. So I thought it would be great to bring her in today because March is National Nutrition Month.
It is.
So
my
who
favorite
doesn't want to
month.
celebrate good food, right?
Absolutely.
Good healthy food.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe a little treat now and then.
Well, everything in moderation.
Exactly.
Makes you appreciate it more, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, we're still fairly early in the year, so people still might be working on those New Year's resolutions they set, or maybe they got off track and it's time to get back on track. Warmer weather is here and people are thinking about being outside, so this is a great time to be talking about how we should be eating and easy ways to do that so that it's not so overwhelming. And I think because people sometimes just think like, oh, if I eat healthy, it takes too much work or it's too expensive. And so we're going to debunk all of those myths for you today. So
definitely.
So you've got, I know what that is. It's the My Plate. So explain the My Plate and how this can help people adapt a healthy diet.
Right. So lots of times New Year's resolutions are very, very specific, they're very restrictive, and they're very short-lived. So March is a really great time to just circle back, stick to basics, and half of your plate should be produce. Just half of it right off the bat. Let's not smother it in gravies, not sprinkle sugar over it, more veggies than fruits, but these are really what should be in everyone's staple meal. And that's gonna help you feel full, that helps your body just function so much better. People run better when they have a high produce intake. Whether it's canned, fresh, or frozen, a combination makes it more accessible. And it's also easier just to have on hand so you don't have to go to the store every day. But that's always what I stress right away, looking at this half your plate. That takes up half that real estate and crowds out these heavier foods that sometimes we get too many calories from. And so then coming over here, we've got a good section of protein. It's a little less than 25% of what your plate should be. So here you're filling up, you're having that really light, really wholesome meal, and then moving on to your grains so that you're not eating those heavy things. And a lot of times grains are really rich. You put sauces and gravies and everything on them. So then maybe ending your meal with these. So you're eating them for the flavor and for the taste rather than to feel full, because sometimes this crowds everything else out on your plate.
Sure.
And then whether you do milk or yogurt, having a couple servings of dairy a day is always a great option.
So this is something really you can use every meal. So you think about breakfast. I mean, people might be initially thinking, well, veggies for breakfast? What are you talking about? But omelets, right?
Absolutely.
Wraps. Other ways, wraps. I mean, you can have lunch for breakfast or dinner for breakfast.
Definitely.
Or those leftovers depending on how your day's running. Talk about grains. I know, people obviously know what grains are. You're talking about, in general you think about breads and rice and pasta, but what are the right types of grains that people should be looking for?
So 9 times out of 10, I want your grains to be whole grains, and that simply means you're eating the whole part of the plant. So whether it's oatmeal or whole wheat bread or whole wheat pasta, those darker colors are going to be a good indication that that's going to be better for you. And that's because the fiber and some of the other things haven't been taken out of it, and so it just helps your system run that much better. Whole grains help you feel full with less total calories too, and so it treats your system a lot nicer. And the reason I recommend that people eat their grains last is because sometimes they're such a staple and we crave them. They're easy energy, they're so good that we just tend to overeat them when we're just eating mindlessly. So just being a little more intentional with this can be so helpful. And I love recommending people think about their My Plate when they go to buffets or holiday meals, because if half of your plate has fruits and vegetables, that dictates what else you get on that line, versus getting into the end of the line and seeing some healthy things and you're like, oh, gosh, I don't have any room.
Right.
So just kind of setting yourself up for success versus regretting it later.
So this is it's a good segue. So we talk about the size of real estate, as you said, dedicated to the proteins and grains. So let's talk about portion sizes, because I think a lot of times people might know what they should eat, but our estimate of what is a proper serving of some brown rice or quinoa or bread, and the same with meat. I mean, we're Midwesterners, so we go out and we have our big steaks and everything for dinner. So let's talk a little bit about protein sizes or portion sizes, and how can people estimate those in easy ways if they're not in a place where they've got a measuring cup or a food scale or something like that? What tips for portion size?
Right, so everyone always takes their hands with them, and so that's the reference that I stick with. You're not always carrying a tennis ball or a deck of cards with you, and so typically this is a better reference. Men usually underestimating it, because if I say the size of my palm is 3 to 4 ounces, some guys have those big man hands. Be realistic, like you know your body frame. So for protein, looking about the thickness and the area of your palm, and that's going to be a serving of protein. If you know you're going to have a big steak dinner for supper, maybe having a vegetarian lunch or something lighter throughout the day, just because you can flex it. It doesn't have to be rigid. You don't have to eat specific things at specific times. It's just knowing what you ate the rest of the day or the rest of the week. If you had several cheat days in a row, it's time to work in some lighter foods.
So then a lot of times too, when we're talking about like grains, so we're talking about like a half cup serving or a cup serving. So what's a good way to eyeball that? You know, whether you're cooking at home or you're out.
Right, so same concept. Men, if you work with your hands and you've got big meaty hands, we're gonna lowball it, but most standard hands are about a cup. If you chop off your thumb, you've got 4 fingers and that's your reference. So your first finger is 1/4 a cup, half a cup, 3/4, and then a full cup here, and that's a really good reference as far as getting those measurements. So 2 cups of veggies at a meal, 2 fists. And then grains, we're looking about that third half a cup range. So just starting there. That's not to say you can't have a second serving, but when you put all your servings on your plate at one time, they're going to get eaten. And so just slowing things down, give your stomach some time to tell you that it's full, and then going from there.
Now this can be really helpful too when you're shopping, thinking about planning your meals, but also thinking about that portion size, because sometimes we get a container of food. I mean, okay, use something like chips or you know, a box, and it's like, oh, well, if I have the whole bag, that's the serving. But this becomes really important, doesn't it?
Yes, and so that's where these can be really overwhelming, so we just try to break it down really simply. We don't need to memorize or know everything. I don't need people counting protein and carbs and fat. I just need them to kind of recognize what they're putting into their systems. So first and foremost, we're looking at the serving size, because none of these numbers along the side make any difference if you're not eating this portion size. If you're eating more or less, those numbers are going to be more and less. And if you eat the whole container, we take all of these numbers here times 8. And sometimes that can be a little shocking with things like chips, ice cream, that kind of stuff. Well, it's a small container. It's a concentrated container. And so if you're knowing that you're going to have a big meal in the evening, if you're trying to avoid any certain thing due to dietary restrictions, just starting here and then comparing everything out is going to make it a lot easier. I always recommend that people look at the grams and what's actually in it versus percentages, because these percentages are based on a 2,000 calorie diet, and most of us just don't burn 2,000 calories a day. That's, you know, your typical young adult male who's reasonably active. You or I, we're probably not hitting that unless we're really working out or doing a lot of manual labor. And so that can be a common misunderstanding.
Great information. And when we come back, we're going to put all of this to practice and share a great recipe that you can use for any time of day, and we'll tell you the health benefits as we make it. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
A safe and effective COVID-19 vaccination is a critical part of reducing illnesses, hospitalizations, and deaths. South Dakota healthcare providers are working together to distribute the vaccine to as many South Dakotans as possible. Vaccination is the first step to ending this pandemic and getting back to normal. Do your part to keep your community safe. To find out where you can get vaccinated, visit covid.sd.gov.
Welcome back to the Live Well Health Feed. I'm here again with my coworker, Morgan Vander Zee, and we are going to put all that great information that Morgan was telling us about nutrition as part of Nutrition Month to good use right now. And we're going to make a smoothie. And I think actually smoothies are such a versatile food item, I guess, because you can use them breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. I mean, it's just great for on the go, something kids can help you make.
Absolutely.
If you're trying to help your kids get some more fruits and veggies in their diet. So this is going to be a good one. It's got an ingredient that I've never put in a smoothie before. So okay, we're going to let Morgan take this off, and we're going to make this great heart-healthy blueberry smoothie. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the ingredients that are going in and why they're good for you. Okay, so let's
Absolutely.
start off. So what do we have in here already?
So we just pureed some oats, and it's just a very simple way of making what's called oat flour. So it's just blended all up. That way when you're drinking your smoothie, you're not going to get a big chunk of oats. It's not going to get stuck in your teeth. It's going to blend up a little more. And it actually gives it this really sweet, like warm, hearty flavor. Is one of my favorite smoothie ingredients.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've done flaxseed before in a smoothie, but I've never done oats. So those are the oats there, right? So just like your basic canister, quick oat kind of thing?
Right,
Or?
quick oats work really well because they're already a little bit smaller pieces, but you can do any kind of oats, throw them in there. Steel cut might be a little grainy, so your rolled oats is probably going to be easier for your blender to catch and kind of shred. If you want to cheat and just do oat flour, it's the same thing. So you've got the options there.
All right, good. Okay, so then what's next?
So after we have this all made, we're just going to dump all our ingredients in. Usually you do your solid ones at the bottom and then your yogurt and milk on top, and then we're just going to put it all together.
Okay, ingredient one. So what do we have here?
We just have a frozen banana.
And bananas are good for?
They're good for a lot of reasons. They're going to add that sweet creamy flavor without all of that extra added sugar. They've got some potassium in there and then also fiber.
Awesome. And frozen, so then if you're using frozen ingredients, I mean, you can always add ice to your smoothies too, but this is a good way just to use.
Yep, one less ingredient. I don't have to worry about the ice. And especially when my bananas are starting to turn or are perfectly at the color that I like them to be at, then I just peel them quick and throw them in a container and freeze them. So much easier.
Okay, blueberries. Kind of a superfood, right?
Absolutely. Super heart healthy, packed with antioxidants. A lot of dietitians will tell you to eat all your colors. And so each color has a different special nutritional value for it. And so getting that really well-rounded diet by eating the rainbow is a great way to eat well without studying, without calculating. I'm getting this much vitamin, this much XYZ.
Okay, good tip. Okay, so next we have
yogurt. So now we're adding our probiotics, we're adding that dairy, that calcium. It's also creamy and going to give your your smoothie a really great texture. It's got some protein.
And yogurt is one of those things you have to be really careful and look at your label like we were looking at before because of added sugars.
Right.
So making sure that you have that low sugar count in your yogurt because you just don't need all those added sugars.
Absolutely. And honestly, you can buy unsweetened yogurt and then just add honey, add vanilla, add fruit, and then you can make it your own and you know exactly what's going into it.
Good point.
Plain yogurt, you can put some sweetened granola on it and then you're still getting that treat without all of that extra sugar because that makes it a little more of a dessert than a staple.
Right. Okay, and then lastly we have,
missed a little, just some soy milk. So soy milk is closest to dairy milk as far as nutritional value and protein and all of the stuff that's in it, but any milk that you prefer is going to be great, whether you like dairy or whether dairy doesn't sit with you. Almond milk is a great low calorie option. Cashew milk is kind of sweet and kind of fun. You can put oat milk right in your smoothie to really complement that oatmeal flavor. So you've got a lot of great options.
All right, so we've got a little bit of everything here. We've got our fruit, we've got dairy, we've got protein and fiber and vitamins and all kinds of good stuff. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a little break, we're gonna blend this up and we're gonna show you the finished product when we return. So stay tuned, we'll be right back with the Live Well Health Feed.
Hi, I'm Dr. Maurer from Falls Community Health, here today to talk to you about keeping your kids healthy and active. It is recommended kids get at least 60 minutes of physical activity every day. Other important guidelines are to limit screen time to a maximum of 2 hours and avoid sugary beverages. I encourage parents to be healthy role models for their kids by getting out and being active along with them. If you have any questions about nutrition or exercise, contact your physician or Falls Community Health.
Welcome back to the Live Well Health Feed. This is going to be the best part of the segment because now we get to taste these delicious smoothies.
I totally agree.
This awesome purple color. I mean, it just looks so much fun. And I think it'd be really fun for kids, you know, something really different to get them
you associate it with their favorite movie characters or cartoon characters. If you throw any sort of spinach or kale in it, then it's all of a sudden a Hulk smoothie or anything that they can relate to and kind of take ownership when they're adding stuff to the blender. It's great.
Awesome. Okay, so we saw what was going in. So how did we do when we're looking at My Plate? How did we do with our recipe?
We did really well. So the goal with each meal or snack is to hit 3 of these categories, and we were able to get our fruits in from the banana and the blueberries. We got some grains in from blending up that oatmeal, and then our dairy from both the soy milk, which counts as a serving of dairy, and then the yogurt.
And it would be really easy to hit the vegetables by that spinach or kale. Throwing that in there. When you blend it up, you can't taste it. So it's a great way to sneak some veggies in, whether it's for you or kids. So you can find this recipe and other recipes on our website, which is www.livewellsiouxfalls.org. You can also follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, to check out recipes and other health tips beyond just Nutrition Month. And so as we wrap up today, Morgan, thanks for all the time and the expertise. And now we're going to taste. So cheers to Nutrition Month. Thanks for joining us, and join us next time on the Live Well Health Feed.